Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Firefighters podcast, where we seek to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operator through a series of wide-ranging conversations. Now, before we go any further, just hit that rate, follow, or subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to. It's a key performance indicator for us and helps us reach even more people. Now, here's what we've got for you today. Hey folks, hope you're all doing well, kicking ass, taking names, and getting ready for a bit of a break over Christmas. Today is a quick roundup from the Fire and Emergency Awards on the 9th of December 2022, where the podcast was lucky enough to get an invite to come on down and share in the Excellence in Fire and Emergency Awards. Now, if you're unfamiliar with it, we popped down there last year, and this is all about recognizing and celebrating the achievements of the fire and emergency services. You see a whole host of people there. There are some chief fire officers. Of course, they're going to get themselves down there, but we also have the teams, industry supporters and suppliers. But most importantly, we have frontline firefighters and the support staff who are the absolute real heroes of the whole sector, as they come together to celebrate the work of the brigades, teams, individuals who have really made a difference. There was a colossal amount of people to celebrate. A couple of my personal favourites are in there as well. So today we're just touching base with one or two of the award winners, just to give you a little insight. It's important to give a big thanks to some of the partners, Gore-Tex and MSA, for bringing these type of events in. I know people can feel a little bit funny about stuff like this. Is it all about hobnobbing and tipping our hats to the people that just sit in the big white ivory towers? But actually, if you ever get a chance to go down, or if you ever get a chance to go over to the website and look at some of these nominations, there are some really incredible people that have done some amazing work. As I've spoken about before on the podcast, some fire and rescue service, in fact, most of us, to be honest with you, are a little bit guilty of operating in silos at times. So this is a great opportunity to kind of see what's been going on out there. Let the people from within those services to be recognized nationally for, honestly, some of the most incredible, innovative work that's been going on. As well as things like the Unsung Hero Awards, International Best Practice, Most Influential Women in Fire, and always as well like that outstanding contribution to fire and rescue service. That's always one of my favorites. The guy that won the award for that this year, I think he'd done like 40 years on call in his community. So again, that's another great example of someone that's been supporting their community for longer than I've been on this earth. So anyway, it's just a short one today, just to give you a little insight. Thanks again to everyone that went down. Hope you had an amazing time. Hope everyone's getting ready for Christmas. Hope you enjoy hearing from some of them, and I will see you all on the next episode.
My name is Assistant Chief Fire Officer Dan Quinn, and we've won Emergency Service of the Year at the Excellence in Fire Emergency Awards 2022.
Massive congratulations, brother.
It's a snapshot in time, but we're over the moon, absolutely chuffed, and I think it's just a reflection on what a cracking little service Shropshire is.
What sort of stuff have you been doing? What's been the sort of secret of it?
So I think the focus for us is really focusing on our people. We have some fantastic people, and you're right, we have to do the same as everyone else does in the fire sector, exactly, with people doing maybe 1 or 2, 3 jobs. So we have some fantastic people, mainly an on-call fire and rescue service, but we have some excellent whole-time staff, excellent support staff, and it's just a really good vibe and a great place to work.
There's some colossal challenges with the on-call and retain sector. We're speaking to some of the Irish fire services where they pay their services a lot more, people are moving around, there's cost of living's going up. On-call is like the big question mark for so many services. I know you've got a really engaged on-call staff. Is there any tips or tricks you can give around that? What have you done about it?
So we're doing a really fascinating piece of work at the moment that I know you're tapped into around the sustaining success piece, which Steve Sadler, who's a postdoctorate research fellow from Keele University and a on-call firefighter at Hodner, he reached out to me and said, let's do something. Let's understand what's so special about Shropshire. What are we doing? And I couldn't really answer the question. So 500 pages later, we figured out what we think we're doing right. And now for us is about sharing it with the sector, And that's not to say we're doing it right, you should do this. It's more about, actually, this is working for us. Can anyone else pick and choose?
I think working off the data is a big factor as well, isn't it? Not just when people say, I think it's a bit of this, I think it's a bit of that. Another way you've been doing with Steve is very much getting a holistic understanding from his background as someone, as a researcher, rather than just, with the greatest respect, I always talk about myself as a knuckle dragon firefighter. I say that with the greatest respect, but I haven't had the training that really understands some of these problems, and without that real data look at it, I suppose it's hard to say, no, this is definitely an indicator of what's been working well.
Yeah, and often people will hear me saying that I'm drawing on the walls while they're doing all the intelligence stuff, and that's why I surround myself with really, really bright and fantastic people. And
how do you discipline stuff to get out of their way, though, at times? Because some people feel that some leaders feel like they need to be the answer, they need to be the one that's got the idea. You've seems to have sidestepped that landmine. How have you done it?
I think it's because I'm absolutely fascinated by their passion, enthusiasm and their intelligence. Why get in the way? Have the confidence as a leader to go, do your thing, and I'll be here clapping you on. And that's what I've done with Steve. He's given him the chance, and he's done some fantastic work. Some of this work around widest possible pool, and some of the work we've done on culture and micro cultures within the fire and service is absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
And that's all. You just immerse yourself in it and try and remember that there's a fire engine at the end of this. And that's what I always say. If you keep the people as your focus, then you can't go far wrong. And I think that's reflective of the award, is that focus by the senior leadership team in Shropshire, that the people and the culture are our kind of guiding light and are really our guiding star there. And we just try and keep that as that kind of momentum and the focus for us.
Love it, mate. Many congratulations, and I'll speak to you soon.
We're over the moon. Thank you.
Well done.
So my name's Andy Gray, I'm the station manager for Chester and Ellesmere Port at Cheshire Fire and Rescue Service, and we've just picked up the Project of the Year at the award ceremony.
Give us a little background on the project, because I know we want to have a quick chat with Charlie and some of the work that he's done, but what was the project again?
So in terms of the Chester Community Fire Station project, this was a brand new build fire station for us as part of the modernisation project, and it's the UK's first net zero fire station. Wow. It truly is a fire station of the future.
That's an interesting thing for us to get into, because I know so many services, a lot of their resources, a lot of their stations and stuff being outdated, so hopefully people can go over and have a little bit of look at the model that you guys have used, and they can learn a little bit more about it there, because with so much investment going into new services, new stations, so many places that I go are just so outdated, there's probably a little bit they can learn there.
Sustainability is key, and yes, we've got multiple services coming in. We've had 2 last week, 1 next week, and we're hoping to share best practice as we always would.
My hope is that people see that before they do the budget spend, because once you've built the buildings, it's hard to do it in reverse, isn't it?
It will help them a huge amount to learn from our pros and our cons of the project.
Well, it's important to go over and have a look, because there's so much silo working sometimes in the UK Fire and Rescue Service, so we kind of need to just get over ourselves a little bit, see what's going on out there. Yeah. Some people have, haven't got to reinvent the wheel. Yeah. People have done it, it's been well recognised, so hopefully they can get some lessons there.
Yes.
Charlie, what on earth have you done, my brother? What are we looking at here?
So I've been lucky enough to win the award for Young People Supporter of the Year, which is an absolute honour for me.
Lucky, do you reckon? I mean, you clearly put a lot of work into it. Why have you got it? What's going on?
Well, I started my career, if you like, with Cheshire Fire and Rescue at the age of 13 when I joined the cadet scheme there.
Is the cadet scheme UK-wide? Because I think it's amazing that we're still doing that. I always got worried that less people would do it now that people have got technology and PlayStation.
Yeah, so it is
I thought worried it'd be less popular.
Yeah, it is a UK-wide scheme. However, the Cheshire Fire Cadet scheme in particular is sort of a more integrated part of Cheshire Fire and Rescue Service. So
how does it work there for people that have never heard of the cadet schemes? So what does it actually do? Because I'm sure there's a lot of people that they've got a 13-year-old that wants to join the fire service, can't do it till they're 18. How did you get involved in it?
So, well, it initially started with my father, who was a firefighter in North Wales. That's where the interest came from. But,
Magic.
The Fire Cadet scheme in Cheshire is designed for people aged 12 to 18. Okay. And it gives you an insight on the Fire and Rescue Service, all the different roles, aspects of the service, how we come together to provide a response, protecting and preventing in Cheshire. So,
do they let you play with the kit from day one? I mean, obviously you're not going to be sticking behind running into burning buildings, but like what I've seen in some cadet programs, I don't know if yours is the same, it's really great that they have got miniature BA sets, they've got miniature ladders, they do teach them knots and lines, they do teach the values and the behaviours. Is that still the case?
We do exactly that. So I'm currently a volunteer cadet instructor, and what we do is we treat the young people as cadet firefighters.
Love it.
And they attend a weekly drill session where we have a roll call.
They do proper parade and everything like that?
We do proper parade.
Love it.
We detail what the plan is for the night, and they have their own PPE. We use the appliances of the whole
They've
time
got their own
station.
PPE?
We have our own PPE.
Who contributes that? Do we know? Is there someone we need to give thanks to for that? Because that's got to be a hell of an expense, or did Cheshire just buy it? Service just pays for it?
Service pays for it, yeah.
Nice.
But we have our own equipment. Some of it is obviously altered to suit children. So, for example, our fire hoses are shorter lengths to reduce the weight. But we treat everything the same. We follow the same procedures.
So says they still use the old 45s for the fire cadets as well, don't they? Because a lot of places it's 52s and 64 mils and stuff like that. Now they've still got the older small stuff.
We try our best to marry up our operational equipment with the fire cadet equipment because it gives a fantastic insight into the real world.
Bloody heavy for a 13-year-old, you'd have thought.
Well, they are, but we're inclusive to all children.
Love it.
And we consider all strengths and abilities. So
you've been doing it since you were 13?
I have, yeah.
Wow.
So.
How old are you now then?
So I'm 21.
21?
Yeah, I joined North West Fire Control age 17. And then I've just recently started the apprentice firefighter scheme in Cheshire full time.
Mate, congratulations. So you went into control at 17. How did you do that?
I did. I was coming to the end of being 17.
Yeah.
Did my recruits course, and then I turned 18, and 2 days later I worked my first night shift.
Mate, that's awesome. I mean,
it was fantastic.
Andy, I think it's probably great that people at such a young age get an insight into the backroom staff as well. I say backroom staff, but like fire control are the pulse of the service. They're the front line. They don't get second chances. They're on the phone with the services all the time. They're liaising all of our assets. I think it's really interesting that people can get that insight early on, because sometimes you meet firefighters 10 years in, they don't even know what those people do.
No, we're lucky. Charlie's the example. He's got a range of awareness across all the organisations.
That kind of holistic view of the whole service.
And our key partners, and it just all builds that knowledge.
Yeah, it's like a well-rounded firefighter. Some people, they're petrified of doing a non-operational role, but they lose the insights of what everybody does, because the tip of the sword, the firefighter and the truck on the front line, is just one aspect to it. It's everything else that goes into that.
Huge array of departments that we utilise: prevention, protection, service delivery, all key to that machine. If we've got them all right, then everything's really, really in a great positive place.
So Charlie, you've started your apprenticeship. What's an apprenticeship looking like? Because loads of services are doing these apprenticeships now. Is that going to be a 2-year thing? When you get to go on stations, how's it going to work?
My apprenticeship is fantastic. So it's a 15-month course in the community safety side of fire service.
Magic.
So prevention, protection, road safety departments, and exactly what you said before with Andy, it's to give us as apprentices a wider knowledge of how the fire service operates.
Okay.
So that when we complete the second part of our apprenticeship, which is operational, we're more of a well-rounded firefighter and have the knowledge base to help us do our jobs effectively. So
Dude, that's
it's absolutely
awesome.
fantastic.
So, I'm not sure we have any 13-year-olds listening to it, but I know we do have a lot of 16 to 18-year-olds who are just thinking about getting into the service, and it says things on your applications about, like, go and do some volunteer work, go and get a better insight. What advice would you have to somebody about doing that? How did they go about getting in contact with the service?
So the best advice that I would be able to give for anyone interested in a career in the fire service is obviously to check your local fire services website, because they'll have loads of advice on how to start your career. So how to maybe pop down to your local fire station or your local fire cadet unit if you're within that age range. But I think obviously the sponsor, Practice to Progress Fire, that sponsored the Young People Supporter of the Year Award.
As Andy will know far better than me, we're hemorrhaging so much experience in the fire service now. So many people are retiring, giving people the tools of how to progress and how to develop as a well-rounded firefighter, rather than just, I'm great operationally. Well, okay, how about people management? How about the soft skills? Those aspects, are really important to it.
It is, and especially, the fire service, it's not just fires anymore. It's a lot more of a varied role. And if you, as a firefighter, if you learn all of the things that the fire service do to prevent the incidents we respond to, I think you get more satisfaction out of doing your role too. So
beautiful. Charlie, massive
privilege
congratulations, mate.
Thank you.
Andy, thank you for your time.
Superb, thank you.
Tom Goodall, London Fire Brigade.
Tom, you guys have come along this year, guys and girls. You've got the Innovation of the Year, zero emissions pumping.
So what you've got is a fully electric drivetrain in a converted Volvo fire engine, Class B fire engine. So it's fully electric. We do have a generator on it, so we can charge the batteries and keep it topped up. We don't really need it. We think it's just as a kind of resilience at the moment, but yeah.
This has been one of the big eggs that people have been trying to crack for the last few years. It's like the government is saying, like, just in general population, after 2030 or whatever it is. So as a government organisation, we should be trying to lead the way. We should be trying to do best practice.
100%.
But when I've been at the emergency services shows and stuff like that, they're like 3 times the cost. So I feel like the government's got to maybe help us out, subsidise us a little bit. It's great to see LFB of all people going first, showing that you're trying to do the best. Do you see this as something that you're going to try and do more of in London? Is it like a project you think other services could adopt?
Absolutely. We definitely think that it's got legs. So our current fire engines are up for renewal over the course of the next 10 years. So
because what a lot of people don't know, is a lot of services, we don't own our vehicles. A lot of times we lease them, and because there's not a lot of use for second-hand fire engines. Sometimes we send them abroad, but it's difficult, isn't it? So a lot of services lease them on a 10 or 15-year service.
So we own ours.
Okay.
So we own ours outright. The next, we're anticipating starting the replacement project for that in around 2025. I'm going to lean on my colleague Vic.
Challenging conversation, but do you know how many you guys have? Because LFB is obviously the biggest. 182
straight
off the bat, so he knows that one.
188.
Hey, we'll let him get away with it.
Yeah.
I'm Vic Messiers. I'm Head of Engineering for London Fire Brigade. So we're starting the project now. Well, in the next year or so, we'll be looking at what the new fire engine looks like. So we're piloting this zero emission fire engine at Hammersmith.
Okay.
That'll be on pilot for the next 2 years, and we'll learn from its capabilities, resilience, what it can do, what it can't do. And from then we'll get some data to be able to look into the future and see what our fire engines look like.
One of the biggest challenges with this is infrastructure. You know, the electrics in these buildings, especially LFB, some beautiful old buildings. Is infrastructure going to be a big challenge, do you reckon?
It is a major challenge. We've put a specific charger, 150 kilowatt charger in at Hammersmith Fire Station where this will be. So this one will charge between, depending on the capacity, we'll charge it within 2 hours.
When we originally started the pilot, we thought the vehicle was going to be the challenge.
Yeah.
But actually, manufacturers have moved along. We're expecting Scania and Volvo and all the major chassis manufacturers to be able to provide battery-operated vehicles. The challenge for us was around the infrastructure, but we've commissioned research into the way we use our vehicles, the frequency we use our vehicles, and we anticipate at the moment there's some outlying stuff, very low percentage of major incidents. The majority of stuff we're anticipating we can deal with on battery power.
Gents, congratulations, and thanks for your time.
Thank you
very much.
So, Ollie, first time you've been at the awards?
No, second time. I was here last year.
Second time. Gore-Tex sponsoring a few things this year. Obviously, you sponsored one of the awards.
Yeah.
We were here supporting the whole show. Pretty impressive turnout. I mean, Andrew claims it to be the most diverse audience. I'm sure he probably says that every year without even his eyesight. He can't see who's in the audience, bless him. But it was a pretty great event, to be fair. You and I would kind of guess who was going to win some of the awards. What did you enjoy about it this year?
Well, look, I think you've hit the nail on the head. This is a real celebration of the fire service. And actually, I think Andrew is right. I'm going to say you're wrong. It was a lot more diverse this year. But no, it's the second year that I've been here. We sponsored it last year as well. And we also not only sponsor the event, we sponsor one of the categories, which is the most influential woman in fire, which for us is a really important category. So Gore is really focused on diversity, inclusion, and we have been for like a number of years now. This isn't something
I think
that's
it's more
new
than
to
that,
us.
because when I think of Gore-Tex, like, it's kind of the molders, the values, but also like the trust aspect of it. And then when I see what women in the fire service are doing, or I see what LGBTQ community, it doesn't actually surprise me that you guys kind of gravitate towards that bit, because it's more the visceral side of it. It's those deep trust aspects, because that's kind of where I see Gore-Tex sitting, I think.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, look, as well as there's a lot of awareness of the categories you've just mentioned, it also, unfortunately, has also become a trendy topic, right, with a lot of businesses. And actually, it's a bit like sustainability. It's like, oh, it's cool to talk about sustainability. It's like, well, yeah, we've been talking about this for 30 years now.
Well, catching up, yeah.
But don't get me wrong, we've enhanced our kind of focus towards these categories as you become aware of these things. So, but yeah, that's a category that we feel proud to sponsor. Obviously, we've been here with Vivian today, who's our application engineer who looks after the UK.
I tried to have a conversation with her, and I very quickly realised she knows significantly more about things than I do, so I just backed away slowly.
And me too, to be honest. So normally I think she'd be speaking to you, Pete, but unfortunately she's lost her voice. So
I know, too much clapping and shouting, I think
you've ended up with me.
Why do you guys keep coming back to stuff like this? Because with the greatest of respect, like, Gore-Tex is pretty much protecting, I think, 90%, if not more, of our firefighters on the front line. So you don't need to be here. People know Gore-Tex works. They know it's in their clothing. They know it protects them. So why bother? What's the point?
Yeah, it's a good question, and we've been asked this a few times, and you kind of relate that to market share. Whereas at Gore, we don't talk about market share actually, even though we know it is obviously pretty substantial. But for us, the messaging has to be the same year on year. We produce the best product. We listen to the end user market. We keep on innovating to help protect the servicemen, servicewomen, firefighters, to give them the best level of protection across a broad spectrum of areas: workwear, fire, police, defence.
Well, it's good to see you guys still leaning in, because with the greatest of respect, like, I see some cheaper stuff trying to slip in there, and then kind of, and I can say this because I know you bloody won't, but it's like, I always say buy well, buy once. Do you know what I mean? And there's a reason Gore-Tex is in most of the stuff, because as people try and cut prices, I hope they don't start cutting costs on firefighter safety, which is why, maybe that's why you guys are leaning in more, because it's important people get the best stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Look, we always talk about our brand and our product and what we do, and look, there's standard and then there's the Gore-Tex standard. And
I hate the idea of minimum standard. People say that with fitness, I'm like, the standard's not the thing you're supposed to aim for. That's the base level.
Yeah, and
you know what I mean?
And that's our theory as well, right? So we want to offer the best level of protection, and luckily within the fire service there are always tenders and the specifications and comfort trials. So we let the wearer decide ultimately, and that's why we've got the success that we have. I think the other side of it is around testing. Is that if you test something brand new out the box, the products will pass certain tests. But what happens at month 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 12? And I think that's what's really important, that actually you look at the long-term longevity of a product.
I think I've got Gore-Tex boots and clothing that I'll probably have for like 4 years. Do you know what I mean? It's the stuff, and actually when you think about it, the fact that I haven't had to buy a replacement 3 times over, it's lasted. Well, look, mate, it's been great crashing up with the team today. Really appreciate you guys supporting this and look forward to seeing you in the new year.
Great, cheers, Pete. Thank you.
Dave, end of the awards today, how did you find it?
I just think it's a fantastic day. It's an opportunity for the UK Fire and Rescue Service sector to get together, both fire and rescue services, the private sector, the voluntary sector, community groups, all coming together in one place to really show that the FRS of the UK is without a doubt, in my view, the best emergency services in the world.
Wow. Strong statement, brother. I like it.
Yeah,
because it's been a really difficult 12 months, but we've had some amazing people come. We have people over from Malta, from Ireland. Incredible to see some of the different innovations as well. We had the zero emission stuff, especially some of the most influential people in the sector. Did you have any favourites? Is there any awards where you thought, wow, absolutely blown away by that one in particular?
Well, I think for me, the breadth of the activity of the UK is the thing that gets me. But without a doubt, and for me personally, I think one of the most shocking things I've seen this year has been the impact of the war on the country of Ukraine, but more importantly, the people of Ukraine. And when the UK FRS sector, and that really was the whole of the sector, Fire and Rescue Services, the FIA, National Fire Chiefs Council, all of those services, all of those individual organisations stepped up, fantastic leadership, created that convoy to go over and make a difference to people who are just struggling in the most difficult circumstances.
It's crazy, isn't it? We've always done that sort of stuff, even way back from the the very origins of things like Ops Foreign, and now there's people that are actually part of that have all long gone and retired, some of them. So it's incredible to see that no matter all the challenges we've still got going on, we're finding the resource, we're finding the time to go over and make some massive convoys like that. And there's been loads of services involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other award for me that really came home today was the Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, 40 years, wasn't it? Oh my God.
That's done 40 years of service. I mean, it's just unheard of.
It is,
as the Chief of Oxfordshire, I always had a policy that I would always go to every single retirement do in my organisation of people that have achieved their 30 years. And I would always go to it. That became rarer and rarer within the retained. And that's no criticism of any individuals. It's just a reflection of society. People move away, short-term jobs, etc., etc. And in actual fact, if you look at the amount of time that people spend as a retained firefighter, it's far longer than the average time they spend within private sector. So we do pretty well to hold on to our people. We should be really proud of that. But then when you come across that 40 years, and of course it's not just 40 years of that individual being on call, it's the family being on call. It's 40 years of birthdays, Christmases, anniversaries, you name it.
Massive commitment.
And certainly, as a chief, I used to have a service that I looked after where we had retained units on every single fire station.
Really?
And 75% of my fire stations were purely retained. 85% of the geography of Oxfordshire was covered by retained firefighters. So for me, they are the absolute backbone of the UK FRS.
It's one of the big hanging questions, isn't it, at the minute? Like trying to make sure that remains sustainable. I know, like people like Steve Sadler, and there was an ACFO here today that won an award, has been doing some work with it. Ooh, his name's going to escape me now. I don't know if it's Shropshire or Staffordshire.
Yeah,
or
Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn, thank you, Andrew. Yeah, Dan Quinn. They've been doing some pretty innovative work for it. I'm just secretly optimistic that we can find a sustainable answer for the on-call, because like you say, they really are the backbone. Some services, it's well over 50, 75% of their service is on-call. It's becoming so difficult now, with the cost of living and all that sort of stuff. So fixing that is a big thing I'm passionate about.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And I don't know what the answer is, because the solution is probably different in every single location. However, there are some very, very simple things that we can do, one of which is to say thank you and well done. And that was really reflected in the award today. And again, when I think about, when I was the Chief of Oxfordshire and I used to go to those retirement functions of those retained firefighters that have served that 30-year period, I used to make a point of going to thank their wives or thank their husbands or thank their families, because without them and without that support, they couldn't do it. And it's an absolute family commitment, and I don't underestimate that at all.
I did it for 10 years, and it's just such a tremendous part of your life
Feels really good, though. You know, I think people forget when we talk about reflective of our community, you know, protecting our communities, when you're actually part of that community as well, something about on-call and retained firefighters that I wouldn't say they're more passionate the whole time, but it's a different beast. It takes a lot of passion. It takes a lot of commitment from them.
Yeah. I remember one year, and for me this summed it up quite nicely. One year I was invited by the parish council, in one of the parish councils in Oxfordshire, to the turning on of the Christmas lights.
Yeah.
And I went along in my chief fire officer's uniform to then be standing in the crowd to have my local sub-officer, as he was in Old Money then, introduced as the local chief.
Absolutely.
And I sat there and I looked at this individual and I thought, yeah, he is the local chief. He was that really, really important position for that community. And again, that sense of community spirit isn't something that you necessarily get in the whole-time service, but you absolutely get it in the retained service. And again, that's something very, very precious.
I'd love to still see more of that, do you know what I mean? Because the true leaders are the ones that are standing on the front line clapping, rather than I should be the one stood up there. Because like you say, you just stood up there, they're going, who?
Yeah.
But they go, yeah, actually I know so-and-so, you know, I know his kids, or I know his wife, or I know this or I know that about them. They're the people that are out there doing it. So fair play to you, and hopefully see more of it.
And I think the other thing with the retained as well is that there is a big challenge about making sure that when our retained colleagues have finished with the service, that they still access the Firefighters charity.
100%.
Because there's a big problem with that anyway. When people leave, they're not sure whether they should access it. But there just seems to be this mental block around accessing the Firefighters charity by people that have left the service, particularly the retained. And I just plead to anybody listening to this now, if you know an ex-retained or indeed ex-whole-time individual within your
their
community,
partners, even if they've passed.
Absolutely. Just make
Their
a
wives,
point.
their children.
If you hear that they've got some difficulties, just flag up to give the Firefighters charity a ring. You never know, that might be the single call that makes a massive difference to their lives.
Thank you for your time today, brother.
Okay,
Take care of
thank you
yourself.
so much for coming.
Andy, another year, not getting sacked. He didn't say anything too bad. It was okay. I did get worried for a second when you said, really amazing to see the dog in the room. I thought, well, where's he going with this? But no, we had our first ever canine nomination this year, which was pretty incredible.
I do recall calling the chair of the NFCC a miserable sod. I think that would...
Well deserved, though. So,
absolutely.
You know, calling a spade, it's not the worst thing.
Didn't vote for the Rex that fired them.
How'd you find it, mate? It was all right?
I thought it was great. How did you find it?
I found it really, really good. I know I had a fumble when we spoke last year saying about all the different nominations, and I thought there was new sort of categories and stuff like that, because honestly, sometimes I go and I'm that busy like trying to learn about the projects or speak to the people that I forget the breadth of acknowledgement that goes on. Really impressed by some of the Ukraine stuff, as we were just talking about then. It's incredible to see how resourceful people have been with that. But zero emissions thing, I finally got an answer about that. I spoke to them. It's interesting what LFB are trying to do with that, but I loved it.
Yeah, it's a great venue.
Yeah, it is.
It really is a nice, feel-good event. And I think that what I always feel guilty about each year is when you see the nominations again and you think any one of those should and could have won it. And then the winner comes up and you think, oh, well, I mean, going against the Ukraine convoy was an impossible task for people there. But we did kind of move categories around and try to get as much as broad a coverage as possible. And I think that's reflected internationally. You got the likes of the Malta Fire Training Centre, Leitrim
travel so far.
Fire Service. It's and the sponsors. I mean, the sponsors are from all over the world. Mainly America, to be honest, but that is all over the world. And it's a universal event. The UK Fire Service has an enormous outreach, and the UK fire sector, as importantly, the industry, the support that we get, and at the start I managed to get the rallying sort of support for the sponsors, because it's very easy to go, but actually, let's cheer for each other, and all of the sponsors were cheering each other, competitors. Magazine competitors with us at the Emergency Services Times, but we all came together to celebrate the very best of the UK Fire and Rescue Service.
It's kind of like getting over yourself and remembering who the people are that are out there doing it.
And it's the people that are doing it. It's not the.
It's not about us.
It's not the glitterati. It's not the chief officers, although they come along and enjoy taking their people. But it's recognising the unsung heroes, and that's what it's about. There is an unsung hero category, as we know, but they're all largely unsung, and I think that's what we're about. And there's a niche within the sector that we're very happy to fill and continue to fill, because I think the feedback we get each time is this is necessary.
Really, really great event.
And it is, no matter what's happening in the world. In fact, because of what's happening in the world, it's more necessary.
Don't forget
than
to
ever.
do that bit. Don't forget to say well done. Don't forget to
recognition.
acknowledge people. Recognition. Otherwise, it won't get repeated because it's like, what's the point? No one's saying thank you. You know, it's my job, so I'm supposed to do it. Well, actually, no. You know, it's still important to say well done.
Absolutely, and we held a sponsors dinner last night for the main partner sponsors, and I bored everybody stupid talking about leveraging influence and why you leverage influence, especially in positions of possible influence, is in order to empower. And if you're not empowering people, then you're not a leader. And empowerment of people who don't always get the opportunity to shine within your organisation, but also within industry. It's empowering people to say, look, we're standing shoulder to shoulder, we've all got a contribution to make, and we do it in different ways. You do it through you going out and fighting fires. I do it through encouraging you to go out and do that.
So thanks when you do.
Thanks very much, you're very brave.
Look,
very,
some
very
massive
soft.
challenges being faced at the minute, but we're going to go for it again next year.
Absolutely.
There'll be some
I think
serious
yeah.
competition next year.
Yeah.
There's some serious challenges faced across all of our cultural stuff, all of our economical stuff, you know, cost of living. People are going to be really pulling it out of the darkness to do some great stuff this year.
Absolutely, and I think what I'd like to see is we get a lot of services that understand this and really support their people, and it's maybe the services that haven't entered this year is please do have a look at it, because it's about recognising your people nationally and internationally, and it's really broadcasting the fantastic work that they do individually, the likes of individual Woman of the Year such as Sam Burt, and the work that back to West Midlands with the Commonwealth Games. It's a real international aspect to it, but there's also that very supportive internal, the young person's people award winner, and the incredible work that goes on in the micro and the macro scale, and that's what it's all about. So please, if you haven't turned up this year and you are from Scotland, or we've got a couple of Scottish entries, but I'd like to see more. I'd like to see more from
100%.
Northern Ireland, the north of England and eastern region, and let's get everybody get in there, get celebrated, and we can create longer lists. You know, we want to recognise people, and it's part of that Fire family. And we create, I think, a really compelling event at the end of the year that says it's Christmas time. Let's celebrate. Let's really recognise people, and let's elevate them. Let's empower them, because that's what we're all about. And that's why we do LGBTQ+. That's why we do BAME individual, woman individual. But we also do industry and team and project and all those categories. And it's seamless. It would seem like a mishmash as I describe it, but I think you'll recognise when you sat there, everybody's going, yeah, this makes perfect sense.
Flows well.
Absolutely perfect sense. It's all of us coming together, and it's not just about the UK Fire and Rescue Service. It's about collaborating broader with other emergency services, with industry, how that interconnects, and recognising that it's not in silo, it's a connection. And true collaboration, somebody said it today, one of the winners was saying about collaboration, the Ukraine convoy, that was true collaboration across an enormous group of peoples and organisation, and yet just about everybody in the UK Fire Service at some point has contributed to that.
Yeah.
You know, and if you haven't, you should have. Maybe do it next time.
Well, look, mate, it doesn't look easy to put it on. It looks like an absolute headache, to be honest with you, but fair play to you and the team for doing it.
I just do this, the fancy bits around the edges, but I think, the personnel, and as I said afterwards, there's an enormous year-round operation that this takes, from the moment that we send out the call for contributions, call for nominations. It's a year-round operation, and it really does take a lot of fueling, but it's about supporting the sector, and it's lovely that we get such wide recognition. We would like to get more ministerial support. The last 7 ministers, Lord Greenhow was here last year. I'd like to get a little bit more of that, but this is the world we live in.
Yeah.
But we get the fire sector, and we've had so many international representations as well, because they, as I say, they look at the UK and go, wow, this is where it happens. We tend to focus recently on some of the bad news stories, but there's a lot of good news, really an awful lot of good news, and we broadcast that, and we talk about it, and we share best practice, and we say, some of this stuff is truly groundbreaking, and saves lives and makes a difference, and we empower the people, and we recognise the people that are making the difference.
Beautiful. Love
Thank
it,
you very
mate.
much.
Congrats for another year, and I'll see you next year.
I do hope so. Cheers,
brother.
mate. Thank you.
The Firefighters podcast is a global podcast seeking to develop, inspire, and motivate the world of the emergency services operators. Through a series of wide-ranging conversations celebrating those within our sector, we seek to encourage and support this incredible group of people. It's brought to you by myself, operational firefighter Pete Wakefield, and I speak with individuals from all walks of life who I sincerely believe can add value to or develop those who have chosen this life path. Please support your emergency services wherever you are in the world, and thank you for listening.